The night lay still over the quiet Vietnamese countryside. The stars shimmered like scattered diamonds across a velvet sky, their light mingling with the pale glow of the moon that bathed the fields in soft silver. The hum of crickets blended with the distant croak of frogs, composing a lullaby for the world that refused to sleep. Under the dim light of a flickering oil lamp, Diep knelt beside a wooden fence, her slender hands brushing against the tiny tomato plants she had just sown. The earth beneath her fingertips was cool and damp, breathing with the scent of dew and promise, the kind of scent that only people who live close to the land truly understand. It was a peace born not of wealth or success, but of simplicity, a kind of calm that city people, burdened with ambition, rarely tasted. Behind her stood James, his once immaculate white shirt now wrinkled from the long drive and the heat of the day. His gaze lingered on her, tracing the quiet rhythm of her movements. He wasn't captivated by the garden, nor by the tomatoes she so carefully tended, but by the strength she carried, the kind of quiet endurance that does not need to be spoken to be felt. She was unlike anyone he had ever met. Not the women in sharp suits who dominated boardrooms, nor the socialites who filled his calendar with noise and champagne. There was something in Diep's world that his own had long lost: sincerity. "You don't belong here," Diep said with a teasing smile, brushing the dirt off her palms. "You have meetings, suits, and fancy dinners. Why spend your night watching someone plant tomatoes?" James chuckled softly, leaning against the wooden post, his voice carrying a mix of irony and longing. "Maybe because this is where I finally find something money can't buy." She arched an eyebrow. "And what could that possibly be?" His eyes met hers, steady, searching. "Peace." "And maybe you." A faint blush crept across her face, glowing beneath the moonlight. "You always know how to say things that make people believe you." "I don't want you to just believe," James replied quietly. "I want to prove it. One day, when I've earned my place again, when I've built something real, I'll come back here, Diep. And I'll marry you." His voice carried the stillness of the night, a vow planted deep like a seed waiting for rain. Diep wanted to laugh, to dismiss his words as the kind of romantic promise that fades with dawn. She had heard them before, from men who swore love was forever, only to vanish when the world grew cold. And yet, there was something in James's tone, a steadiness, a kind of ache, that made her heart tremble. The next morning, the sun rose pale and uncertain. James left early, the hum of his black car echoing down the dirt road until it vanished behind the mist. From the gate, Diep watched the dust trail rise behind him. He didn't look back, but she knew, he carried her heart with him. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months. James's life was consumed once again by the gleaming skyline of Saigon. The sharp edges of contracts, board meetings, and profit margins replaced the soft glow of the oil lamp he had left behind. And yet, her image lingered, the sound of her laughter, the scent of fresh soil on her hands. The way she looked at him, not as a man of status, but as a man of worth. He whispered to himself, again and again, when I have $1 million, I'll marry her. It was not just a romantic vow anymore. It became his compass, his driving force, the bridge between love and ambition. Back in the countryside, Diep's days moved with the rhythm of the seasons. She harvested vegetables, sold them at the market, and cared for little Nhi, the orphaned girl she and James had once taken in. Every evening, as the sun sank behind the distant hills, she would glance toward the horizon and wonder. Was James eating well? Was he sleeping enough? Was he still thinking of her? Sometimes, she would whisper into the wind, one promise, two fates. I wonder which one will win, love or ambition. What she didn't know was that, in the sleepless glow of his penthouse office, James was asking himself the exact same question. A year passed. The man who had once lost everything had risen again. Contracts flowed in like tides, and investors who had once turned their backs now competed for his attention. His name returned to the business pages, the comeback of a visionary, but with success came the weight of every decision. Late nights stretched into dawns, and James began to live on caffeine and adrenaline. During a dinner at his father's estate, the tension broke. If you want real respect, his father said, setting down his glass, you'll close this $10 million deal. Move production overseas. Forget those small farms. Forget that girl. She doesn't belong in our world. James froze, the silver fork trembling in his hand. That girl, he said quietly, is the reason I'm still standing. Without her, I would have given up long ago. His father's expression hardened. Love doesn't pay the bills. Build your empire first. Family comes later. The words hit him like iron. For nights, James lay awake, torn between the two worlds, the empire he'd fought to rebuild, and the small garden that had taught him how to live. Meanwhile, Diep was fighting her own battles. The vegetable co-op she managed with local farmers was failing. Storms had flattened crops. Prices had dropped. The hands that once worked with ease now ached from exhaustion. Still, she never complained. Every time she looked at Nhi, running to school in her worn red shoes, she found strength. That night, as rain battered the tin roof, her phone buzzed. A message from James. I'm close. Just one more deal, then I'll come back. Her fingers trembled. She wanted to write, I don't need your money. I just need you. But pride and fear held her back. She typed instead, I'll wait. Just don't lose yourself in the city. In his high-rise office, James read the message over and over. Outside, the rain streaked the glass like tears he wouldn't shed. He turned off his phone. And signed the contract. That decision would cost him everything. A week later, his partner disappeared. The contract was fraudulent. The deal, a trap. James lost millions overnight. His accounts frozen, his reputation shattered. The media renamed him the fallen star. Sitting alone in his dark office, he whispered to himself, I just wanted to be worthy of her. He reached into his pocket, the ring he had bought for Diep cold against his skin. Maybe the million-dollar dream was never about the money, he thought. Maybe the real challenge was keeping love alive when the world falls apart. When he finally left the city, dawn was breaking. The skyscrapers faded behind him, replaced by the open fields, the rhythm of the wind, and the scent of rain-kissed soil. By dusk, he reached her home. The small window flickered with warm light, casting gold against the shadows. Through the open door, he saw Diep and little Nhi at the table, their laughter soft and pure. He stood there for a long moment, afraid to step inside. Then Nhi looked up. Uncle James, she cried, running to him. Diep turned, startled. Her eyes widened, disbelieving. He stood there, soaked from rain, exhausted, but smiling. I told you I'd come back. She approached him slowly, each step shedding a year of pain. When she reached him, she didn't ask about money or failure. She asked simply, are you all right? James's voice broke. I failed, Diep. I lost everything. She shook her head. Not everything. You're here, and that's everything, he wept. And for the first time in years, he felt free. That night, the three of them shared a meal, rice, soup, and vegetables from Diep's garden. No champagne, no grandeur. Just warmth, laughter, and peace. Later, under the gentle glow of an oil lamp, James whispered. Maybe this is the house I was meant to build, not one made of walls, but one made of love. Diep smiled through tears. And this is the home I waited for. Outside, the rain stopped. The stars returned, watching quietly, as if the universe itself approved. Morning light spilled across the small house. James woke to laughter outside. Through the window, he saw Diep hanging wet clothes and Nhi chasing butterflies. It was a simple scene, but to him, it was everything. He walked out, joining Diep by the garden. You're up early, he said. She smiled. Someone has to protect the vegetables from the chickens. He laughed, taking the basket from her hands. Then let me help. I owe this garden a lot. As they worked, she asked softly, do you ever miss it? The city, the company? He paused. I used to think success made me strong. But now I know, strength is about who stands by you when you have nothing. She looked at him tenderly. And who stands by you now? He smiled. You. And me. From inside, Nyi's voice rang out. Mom. Dad. Breakfast is ready. The word dad froze him, then melted him. He turned to Diep, eyes soft. She only smiled, and together they walked back inside. At the table, Nhi grinned proudly. I made it myself. James took a spoonful, pretending to think. He said. Tastes like love. Nhi giggled. Diep laughed. And for that brief, golden moment, everything was perfect. Weeks turned into months. Together, James and Diep rebuilt, not a company, but a life. They planted, harvested, taught Nhi the beauty of honest work. Every seed in the soil carried their story, of loss, of redemption, of love reborn. Sometimes, at sunset, they sat on the porch, their hands intertwined, watching Nhi draw hearts in the dirt. Maybe we never needed to conquer the world, James whispered. Diep rested her head on his shoulder. We already built our own. The wind carried the scent of blooming flowers, of second chances, of peace. And under that golden Vietnamese sky, where laughter echoed through the fields, James finally understood. The $1 million dream had never been money, it had always been them.